Hi, welcome there to our project vaccine management system. Present to you by myself, Dylan, Jasmina, Adam, Aun, and Kunyang. Our today discussion includes the brief introduction of the project, business requirement analysis, and group project management, and a summary of the developed system, which includes the system benefits and the possible effects if the project fails. Our Group 1 has been assigned from one of our stakeholders to build this vaccine management system, where it enables the public to register for vaccine ticket through the system. Firstly, we're going to start with the stakeholders. There are 5 key stakeholders that we identified. General public, soon, who will be the patient. Once they have registered to our system, they will receive the vaccine ticket, where they can get vaccinated in the center that has been appointed. Healthcare workers, including doctor, nurse, and paramedic staff, has a role as a vaccine administrator. The stakeholders will record the vaccinated patient to the system. Health Department Minister has a major role, where they set the plan for who is going to receive the vaccine first, and also register the vaccination center to the system. Chief Technology Officers is our product owner and dedicated us as a system developer to build the system. Here's our approach in designing the system. We are using design thinking process associated with agile methodology, which include 5 phases to go through. The first phase is emphasized with the stakeholders that we identified. In this presentation, we will show 2 empathy maps, public member, and healthcare workers. Once we're done with the first phase, we define the problem and the objectives of the project. This as a result to ideation process where our group member brainstorming to address the problem. These ideas then will be turned into user stories and the 4 phases prototype models. Last but not least, the test phase will be executed once all of the phases is completed. Here's our empathy map for the general public. What do they see? They have seen that the government announced the news of COVID-19 vaccine, people get vaccinated, information is being shared, is misleading. They have said they want to register and get vaccinated as soon as possible. Some refuse to get vaccinated. What do they do then? Ask if they need to get vaccinated. Research more about how, where, and when to get vaccinated. Some of them have heard that their friends have completed the vaccinated process. Some heard that COVID-19 vaccine is highly important to have. Some heard that the information regarding about the COVID-19 vaccine could kill people. What do they think and feel? They might be confused with the vaccine, which one to choose. Does the vaccine save for us? Does the vaccine save for the body? The gains, if it's successful, the COVID-19 will build the antibodies. Some might be able to return to Australia in no time. The second empathy map is for healthcare worker, include doctor, nurse, and paramedic staff. They have seen that the government has already started and announced the vaccine rollout program, which means they are required to work as a role of vaccine administrator. They say that there's still some doubt over the safety of the vaccine since the development has been very fast. What do? They inform the public about the vaccine safety. They hear about the new vaccine management system. There is more strains of COVID-19. They heard that there's still some issues with rollout as well as dosage shipments being stopped from overseas, slowing rollout. The pains, having to deal with limited resources and manpower, as well as unorganized vaccine rollout. They could also end up working longer hours. The gains, they will want organized and streamlined system so that it allows for faster and effective vaccine rollout. The second phase is define. The problem definition. The State of Health Department Minister, who is responsible for COVID-19 vaccine rollout program, is having issues in distributing the COVID-19 vaccine to the public. So the goal of this project is to develop and design vaccine management system so that it allows public to register for a COVID-19 vaccine through a platform and provide the details of the vaccination center. Now, I will introduce you for our next speaker, who's going to talk about the third phase, Jacques.
Thanks, Brian. Now on to ideation. Ideation is the creative process of generating new ideas, which can be accomplished through a variety of ideation techniques, such as brainstorming and prototyping. If done right, ideation is what helps founders and executives determine the right problems to solve and how to solve it. We use these techniques to figure out the main goals needed for the system to work. Firstly, for the general public, we figured that we must consider how might we encourage members of the public to have the COVID vaccine. How might we provide members of the public to easily register on our system for the COVID vaccine ticket? How might we contact the public who has successfully booked for the COVID vaccine? How might we facilitate the vaccination center to the public? And how might we label them as vaccinated people after they have 2 doses of the COVID vaccine, maybe through a certificate? And for the healthcare workers, how might we spread the word about the COVID vaccine? How might we persuade the general public to take the vaccine? How might we organize a faster rollout system? And how might we facilitate the demand for the vaccine? And how might we inform who is next in line for their vaccination? Now I will hand it over to Stephen.
Hi, I'm Steven. I will talking about use stories and use case diagrams. So for the use stories, we got patient and healthcare workers. So for the patient, we got 5 use stories. They are register, sign in, receive notification for first and second vaccine, download the vaccination certificate, with additional information of the COVID-19 vaccine. And for the healthcare workers, we got a real application form, real vaccination instructions, record vaccinated patient. So they are what our group did in user stories. And I will talking about the use case diagrams. So for the use case diagrams, the main issue is vaccine management systems. This systems is belong to the Federal Health Authority and they control system. And the main user are all the patients who need to do the vaccinated of COVID-19 and the healthcare workers who help people get vaccinated. The patient register an account that the people can use the personal information to see the vaccine ticket and also can log into the system to see the details of account and tickets. The people can searching the information of the COVID-19 and the vaccine. When the people already have a ticket, they also can get a certificate and you can download it. The healthcare worker need to know how many people need the vaccine and ship to every hospital authorized for vaccination. The healthcare worker also need to look at the vaccine administration instructions that make sure the vaccine is intact and can be vaccinated to the patient. They need to see a form that a patient who apply for vaccination and who apply done the vaccination. This ensure that every patient has completed the vaccination and record it to the personal information. Those are what our group did in use case diagrams. So next is dialogue to speech.
Hi everyone, I'm Dylan, and in this part of the presentation, I'll be going through the activity diagram that we have created. We have created 2 activity diagrams, one for the stakeholder, patients, and the other for the stakeholder known as the healthcare worker. First off, what is an activity diagram and what does this show? Well, an activity diagram is created based off the use case model which was discussed by Stephen in the previous slide. By creating an activity diagram, we are able to show further information regarding the use cases shown. For example, in the activity diagram for the patient viewing their vaccination ticket in the VMS, we can clearly see the series of actions that lead to the patient being registered within the system to view their vaccination ticket. This activity diagram starts off with the patient starting up their VMS session where they are met by a condition of whether they have an account or not. If the user has an account, they will then be directed to view their ticket. Otherwise, they'll be redirected to have their account set up through several validation methods before being able to view their ticket. The second activity diagram that was created for the stakeholder healthcare worker portrays the steps required for them to record vaccination details, patient information, and to generate the vaccination certificate. The healthcare worker would first need to start the session and log into the system with their requested user credentials, as they are then validated on the system. Once they have logged in, the staff interface is shown where they would then navigate to register the vaccination application and also update the patient details. After these have been recorded and updated, the healthcare worker can then generate the vaccination certificate. These two diagrams assist with showing the use cases, in-depth series of steps required to achieve its outcome. For the next part of our presentation, I will be passing this on to Adam to discuss the class diagram.
Now onto the class diagram. Starting from the patient, we can see that this class inherits the attributes of the account class, which stores the information that defines each patient upon registration. From this account class, we have the verification of the patient's account, which validates it as demonstrated by its method. Now back to account, we can see a link exists to a prioritization class that ensures that a customer's age lands in a specific age bracket to ensure their priority. In regards to receiving a stock alert for the vaccination, a ticket class associates each patient with the appropriate vaccination point and a time slot. A relationship is also seen with the vaccination point class, which is responsible for issuing a stock alert on the vaccine and communicating with the vaccination distribution center class. From the ticket, an application form is created, listing the priority of each patient, which can then be viewed by the healthcare worker, listing the timings and patient details. Upon completion of the vaccination, the worker is then able to generate a vaccination certificate shown in the class, which is demonstrated to the patient once the process is completed, which is represented through the generate certificate and display certificate methods within that class. I will now be handing over to Jasmina, who will be presenting the project management side of the project.
Thank you, Adam. So the Agile methodology has been chosen because it provides a versatile structure for developing an effective solution that focuses on the customer. The Scrum framework in particular is centered around continuous learning and adjustments to fluctuating factors. This is the framework that the team has chosen to do in order to kind of successfully complete and deploy the VMS project, because we found that with the changing circumstances of COVID happening in Australia, we as a team have to be very flexible in order to accommodate for these changes and therefore stay relevant for the customers that will be using this product. Within the Agile methodology, particularly the Scrum process, there are 4 different factors that we had to look into. So for the preparation aspect, it was important to set up the sprint and the project foundations. So the Scrum roles particularly have been divided according to the different roles that everyone is most suited for, and this allows for successfully achieving the best outcomes. Product backlog. So the project owner is responsible for this, and it is used for putting all the user stories together as it breaks down the user needs and requirements, which ultimately allows the team to create a roadmap for building the system. And this roadmap is further fleshed out in the sprint planning meeting, and it is kicked off in the beginning of the sprint, and the event is to define what can be delivered in the sprint and how the work can be achieved. So in the sprint planning meeting, we found that it was good to have 2 sprints during this duration of the project, where each sprint was for 2 weeks long. And we were setting up different goals for each of the sprints in order to try to achieve the best outcome. So for this first sprint, we wanted to create the VMS system to allow the users to log in and register. The second sprint was more fleshing out the little details and features of the VMS system, so creating notifications, mapping the vaccine system, daily Scrum meetings. In these meetings, it was a great way for the team to understand each other's progress, as well as help flag any team blockers. It also strengthens the team when everyone shares a progress that they are contributing and allows for better transparency with other team members. Sprint reviews and sprint retrospectives were a way of successfully celebrating the end of all the tasks that was given to us. And in the sprint retrospective, that's when you start reflecting on how the previous sprint was. By having this sprint retrospective meeting, it allowed us to sort of understand how we could improve. So now I'd like to hand it over to Zach.
Thanks, Jasmina. Now on to the many advantages that will come with the introduction of the proposed vaccine management system. One of the main advantages will be the great improvement in organization when carrying out the vaccination progress, as this entails that healthcare workers will have to record when a vaccine is given, how many vaccine doses are left, as well as who it was given to. The system will also improve the experience not only for the healthcare workers, but for the general public, as it will have a feature that allows the public to view information on the vaccines, boosting public confidence in the vaccine safety, as well as making signing up much easier for them. It will also produce a digital vaccination certificate for those who completed the vaccine process, allowing for much easier recording of data. Now to the possible effects if the project fails. If the system were to fail, there will be a very large delay for both health workers and patients, as firstly, the application system will have to be done manually or completely scrapped, causing large lines and confusion with the vaccinations. The healthcare workers will have to manually make sure they give the correct doses to the right person while recording how many doses were given. This would lead to many human errors, as well as boosting up the health workers' work hours. This could also lead to incorrect data on who has received the dose, how many doses are left, and if the hospital would need to order more from the government. And thank you guys for listening to our presentation, and I hope you guys have a great day ahead.